Indiana ranks 39th nationally in percentage of women in the state legislature, just behind South Dakota and just ahead of North Dakota. Just 27% of Indiana's 150 seats are held by women. And as Benta Boutier reports, the relative shortage of women in decision-making positions has consequences in policy.
This is Chrissy. Hi, darling.
Hi.
Good to see you.
It's a busy day for Indiana State Rep. Tanya Paff. Sessions in full swing, and the Vigo County Library, her local branch, is here with the Indiana State Library Association.
Then we're going to go down to Indiana State University because ISU is also in the house today. What grade are you now, sophomore? Okay, and you are biology?
Environmental geoscience.
Paff is one of 40 women in Indiana's state legislature. Illinois has 43%, Michigan 40%, Kentucky 31%, and Ohio 29%. Paff wasn't aware of the numbers 6 years ago when she saw her local state representative was retiring and saw an opportunity.
I called my husband and I said, you should run for office. You should run for state rep. He's like, no, you run. I'm like, me?
A math teacher in Vigo County, she decided it was time to get involved in state decisions on public education.
I was like, I guess I could run, having no idea what the numbers of women and men were or how despairing the numbers are. I had really no idea at the time. However, now that I look back at it, my primary was me and 4 men.
Women make up about 50% of Indiana's population. A political science researcher at Notre Dame says the disparity in representation affects what bills advance, get carried, and how much interest Hoosier women have in politics.
We know that when women are in office, they are more likely to introduce bills on women's issues. They're more likely to vote for bills on women's issues. They're more likely to give speeches on women's issues.
Schrader adds more representation also changes how women discuss these issues with their male counterparts in the legislature. Nevada became the first state with a majority women legislature in 2018. New Mexico has the second highest number of women representees. Nationally, women legislators are more likely to vote on and introduce bills focused on women's issues, but also healthcare, education, childcare, and family support. As a policy advocate for United Way Indiana, Ryan Myers spends most of her days at the State House during session. While her organization's goal of ending poverty isn't gendered, the issue has a disproportionate effect on Hoosier women. Out of Indiana households in 2022, those headed by a single woman had the highest rates of financial hardship, at 75%.
When you think about things like women being primary caregivers in their families, statistically at higher rates for children or for other members of their families, when you think about the gender wage gap that we know still persists in Indiana and across the country, all of those things then tie back into women's economic security and women facing poverty at higher rates than men. And so even though it's not explicitly called out in our mission, gender plays a big role in so many of the issues that we talk about and that we talk to legislators about.
The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that in 2022, Hoosier women who worked full-time made a little more than 77% of the median weekly earnings of men, one of the largest pay gaps in the country. University of Indianapolis research shows state legislatures with more gender parity have narrower pay gaps.
After COVID hit in 2020, in the first 3 months, 90% of the workforce who left was women. We lost 50 years of economic empowerment in that brief period of time, and trying to build that back will take decades and maybe longer.
Carclich adds the state legislature is showing an interest in child care tax credit and addressing the rape kit backlog. But she says 1/4 of Indiana's counties are maternal health care deserts, and another 28% have limited care, issues that are harder to move.
It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, you're coming from a background that has a different ideology, but we have found that many women are much more receptive, regardless of where they sit on the aisle, to discussing women's issues.
Carclich says women face barriers running for office. Work and family obligations and the pay gap means an uphill battle for self-financing a campaign. Schrader says one reason for Indiana's low representation is that it's never had a woman governor, but voters are favorable to women candidates.
We don't see much evidence anymore that voters discriminate against women candidates.
Schrader adds Republican women are less likely to run for state office in Indiana. Of Indiana's 40 Senate seats, Republican women hold 7, and Democratic women hold 3. Of 70 House seats held by Republicans, 15 are held by women. Of the Democrats' 30 House seats, half are held by women.
At the end of the day, we need more women to run. So it would be great if somehow we could motivate women to see the importance and value of coming here and having their voices heard.
When you run for office, it will take a village, but I hope every person watching this will take it under serious consideration to find ways to engage in their communities.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Bente Boutier.
Indiana's first woman legislator, Julia Nelson, was elected in 1920, the same year women got the right to vote.